when I have a wine like that, it's like in Singapore's new water. Maybe you don't know. New water is something like recycled wastewater. It's a really wastewater, but in Singapore, high technology, created, make it, this, drinkable water. And then when I always, turn the tap, I hesitate. I look at it, and then, but yet I take it because I'm trusting. So that kind of hesitation, when it comes to a big scale, dynamic scale in architecture, what happens? I think that kind of a shock create a moment of architecture. It's whether we don't know it's real or we don't know whether it's honest or not. Maybe it's a deception. Maybe it's all the fabrication of a government. But what can we do? So that's the question. So I'm not answering to that question whether architecture is honest or not. Maybe architecture is participating in deceiving the people, but at the same time, architects always look for some kind of honesty. Okay. And then the next project, this is Pulau Semakau. This is an island. It's used for a disposal site of the entire Singapore. First, the Singapore goes in Singapore. First, all the garbage goes through this incineration process. That means it's all burnt and then it turns to be ash. And these ash are collected and then brought by the boat to this island here. So it's a kind of very safe. It's detached from Singapore mainland. And then this the island called Semakau is dedicated for this disposal. And then this island is like this. Okay. Well, there are some mangroves. There are some natures. That still remains. But because of ash, actually this island is not so healthy. Okay. This is the kind of a chronological projection. History and projection. In the 1970s, this Semakau was designated as a disposal site, and then in the 80s and 90s and 2000, actually, the Singapore was disposing the ash here, and then. But actually, the government, they projected, this idea of a zero waste, condition. That means. In 2045, they try to really even eliminate the ash by processing all the ash. It becomes nothing. That's the ideal hope of Singapore. But okay, this project, the student in this project actually students try to even encourage the process of zero waste, zero waste idea, and then try to achieve it in the 1930s. Okay, yeah, 15 years before that. Okay, before the government's projection. By doing that, then maybe the government can use such a beautiful island, to turn it to ideal site for ecotourism and then farming and then residential development. Singapore, wherever you find the residential, including HDB, condominiums, they are like residential crazy. They try to produce anywhere the residential. So I'm sure such a beautiful island will be dedicated for this the agenda, the purpose. Okay, and then students came up with the idea. Okay, of the treating the ash. Right now, unfortunately, this ash cannot be treated and then disappeared. It's still there. And then now it's just dumped to the island. Okay, but students came up with this idea of making a block, made of a reinforced concrete. It works as a container, and then all the ash is packed into the container, and then create the cubes. Let's say 1 meter, 1 meter, 1 meter cube. Okay, and then let me see. Let me see. basically, the student, they talked about, this, stacking up all the cubes and then create a tower. Okay. Right now, the volume of ashes, they produced in Singapore is in a year is equivalent to Raffles City, the skyscraper, which is 220 meter high. The highest, probably highest in Singapore. And it's the volume of that building, and then the volume of ash, that produced in Singapore is almost equivalent. So he came up with this idea of making a tower every year, so that the people can achieve. People can immediately find their achievement. Every year, if the tower becomes lower, that means that the production of garbage and then ash will be reduced, which is more ecological, and then people are happy. So, he to encourage people to reduce the waste, he came up with this idea. Okay? So all these towers actually are created. Okay? And then this is the island, and then on the north part of the island is dedicated for these, the towers. Every year, the one next to each other, the tower actually develops. And then, because all the ash is contained in the tower, okay, all the land, right now it's not filled yet. This is all ocean, and then only dikes are there to prevent the ash to be mixed with the seawater. So. These, the field, will be turned to be farms, where all these dikes, will be planted, with mangroves, so that these ecotourists will enjoy this space. So that was, his idea. Okay, and then this is a kind of perspective. Okay, and then this is, the kind of the projection of ecological, kind of the development of certain ecology. Okay, and then this is a big, the mobile factory. That means, once the tower was made by this machine moves to the next one and create another, the tower. And then the tower is consisted of all these ash block. So in a sense, that this building is not like a post and beam structure, but the building is more like Egyptian pyramid. Pyramid is the stacking the stone, the one on top of the other, right? These two actually, the ash, in the concrete block is actually stacked. So this is, the machine to process, all the ash, containing the ash to the concrete blocks. Okay? And then this is, the structural idea. So, basically it's stacking, each other, and then come up with, the constant, beams, so that, all the weight doesn't, hit the bottom. And then this is the process of a construction. Okay, so they are dealing with the basement also. I mean, they are digging. They have to dig, to come out the foundation of this tower. But the digging means they have to expose, people have to expose themselves to these ash, the old ash, right? So they are always they're wearing these space suits. It's a airtight suits. And then this is the process, the plan. The machine actually create one tower and then move to the another one, and move to the another one. And then this is the process, elevation. Okay, so all these technologies created these towers. And then these towers are now accommodated by the people. Probably 220-meter tower is very suitable for luxurious, the condominium, And then, but this building is not like the post and beam structure, like I said. you cannot get the space inside of a building. Only you can come up with the space at the edge. It's like ants, creating the nest, the inside the ground. So this is a one unit, all exposed to all actually facing to outside. And then this is the ground level that also have all the corridors and then the elevator shaft and so on. Okay, so this is the elevation. Okay, and then the people are working. The farmers are working. To farm this land. Right? The farming means they may be exposed to the ash. We don't know what the ash include. Maybe toxic stuffs. Again, these the lines, white lines, actually it expresses lifts and then the residential units. But can you believe, people are living in the ash, in the other residence. Okay? So this is, the unit, the perspective of a unit. If you look at this, you can tell this is an airtight, the glass unit, so that the ash never ever be, the coming into a residential area. And then this is the elevation of it. And then this is a lift lobby. In a lift lobby, maybe all these residents can do farming as their hobby. They are living in such a luxurious residence, right? A residential unit. They may have a land on the ground. They can enjoy this farming. But when they do a farming, they have to wear space suits, and they may have a contact with the dust. So when they come back to a residential, they have to go through all the this air shower, so that they are totally cleaned off when they come into a residential unit. So again, all these, the architecture try to look for the perfection and then the refinement, in terms of technology. And then all these, the towers actually without any how can I say, deception, actually come up with the tower. Tower is made of blocks. It's very objective. Nobody have a doubt. And then residential is airtight. So everything is the proper. But if you look at this, the residents here, is it the ideal life or not? Again, we are put into an undecidable condition. This is like almost like an inhuman, post-human condition, where the people have to they talk each other within the space suits. Maybe they need a microphone and then interphone within the helmet. And then they have to always worry about this. They constantly have this anxiety. So in a sense, again, this is the utopic ideas. But when we really, explore it in a realistic manner and an objective manner, all these, the project, come into some kind of, how do you say, the ambivalence. We cannot decide whether we want that kind of future or not. And then I think these, the two projects are quite honest and then are quite, how do I say, they're objective. But at the same time, when they've completed this project, and then when people start to live, for example, it creates another kind of the layer of the deception and the honesty. So I feel like there's no end for that question. And then one thing sure is that the architecture always commit to both creating of deception, creating or fabrication of a story, at the same time trying to reveal some reality. So, well, I don't side on either way, but that's end of my